And action.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Art of the Playlist. This episode is on cover songs. I'm Robert LaFrance, and I'm here with my friends. Can you introduce yourselves, people?
I'm Patty
Betty,
Pino.
and I'm Christian Godbout. Hi, everybody.
Today, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of cover songs. I'm typically not a huge fan of cover songs, so it's a bit of a stretch for me because it took me a lot of time and energy to come up with any cover songs that I actually liked. So that's just me. How do you guys feel about them?
I like them when they're done right. Yeah, I think that's the key. There's a lot of trashy ones out there, but there's some out there that are actually pretty good and maybe even better than the original.
I'm with Christian. I actually like cover songs if they're done well, and I think a lot of cover songs are done well. One of the things that rose up to me as I was putting the list together is movie soundtracks often have cover songs, that's a good source of some good music. Also, certain artists have made their careers on cover songs, but we'll get to that
That's a great point. I didn't even think about that. The whole Joe Cocker thing, right?
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, to me, it kind of seems like a cop out, meaning the that are recording the cover already know the song works. So it's like built in success, if you will. And typically, if I wanted the same thing but slightly worse, I'd cook my own dinner. I like that.
yes, I
I
believe
wrote
you.
that.
See, not all cover songs were originally hits. I take umbrage at that. Sometimes they'll resurrect a song that was done in the 30s and do it in the 90s and have it be great, and it was never anything back in the 30s, or in the 70s or whatever.
Yeah,
So I think there's a lot of. I think honestly, we could do 6 episodes just talking about cover songs. Also, if you think about the history of songwriting, Rob. Songwriting used to be done uh, at the record companies by songwriters, and then they would have people come in and sing them. It's only since the 60s that people really started writing their own stuff and recording their own stuff. A lot of it was, and don't quote me on that because I don't know exactly when that started, but that feels right to me. But before that, you would go to Capitol Records and they would say, okay, Carole King and her husband wrote this song. You go out and record it and you'll have a
yeah,
hit, you know?
that's true.
Yep. Yep.
Or you get a lot of these old, a lot of the songs I looked at were old blues songs, right? And they were never mainstream at all. And then all of a sudden, somebody does a cover of it, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that it was even a cover. So
Yeah,
Yeah, I
like
got a
Zeppelin,
couple of
right?
those.
Zeppelin did all the old blues songs.
yeah, all the bands did. Think about Clapton doing them, even the Doors, right? It's just there was a lot of that going on.
For sure.
All right, well, Christian, why don't you go first? Why don't you tell us before you start
Oh,
your list what qualifies as a cover song that makes your playlist?
I think it has to be better than the original.
Oh,
Um,
it's a high
okay,
bar.
that is a high bar, and it's all just my opinion. So you may not agree with it, right? So, like, I'm not going to go through my whole list, but if we think about a couple of them, like All Along the Watchtower, Bob Dylan wrote that, right? And it was a great song. But then Jimi Hendrix comes along and does All Along the Watchtower, and it's a completely different song, and it's better. It's just even Bob Dylan said it's a better song. He just
Hmm.
found something in the song that, I mean, obviously he electrified it and made it Jimi Hendrix. So, that's probably all you have to do. But I think that's a good example. If we look at songs in the '90s, "Hurt" by you know that that Johnny Cash covered. Trent Reznor originally wrote it. Johnny Cash covered it, and he did an amazing song. Right? It's a haunting song, but it's just so much better. And again, in my opinion. And
It
then
has more meaning, I think, than the original does, like
exactly,
more passion or something. There's
especially
that.
when if you see the video with Johnny Cash actually singing, it's just an old man who's singing it, but you feel it, right? I mean, you
Hmm.
really just feel every bit of that song when he does it. The original was cool. Yeah, I liked it. But I think Johnny Cash brought it to another level. I'll just talk about one more from the '90s, Mrs. Robinson, Simon and Garfunkel, classic, right? But the Lemonheads come out and do it, and it's like it's a totally different vibe, and it was a lot of fun, and and I really enjoyed that. So that's just a couple of what I had. I put together a whole list. I'm not going to go through all of them, and I did save some of the really bad ones for the end, but we could talk about that if towards the end. What about you, Patty? What do you have on your list?
I have a lot of things on my list. I don't, in terms of what made me think through the list, it's more that the songs would be more interesting when they were covered. Not necessarily better, like Christian said, because I would debate that Mrs. Robinson was excellent by Simon and Garfunkel and also excellent by the Lemonheads, but it was different and interesting, which is
Different.
probably what attracted your attention. So, my list starts with Nirvana, The Man Who Sold the World. They covered David Bowie. David Bowie's version is amazing, but
Yeah,
Nirvana really captured a new generation by doing an acoustic version of it on MTV Live Acoustic.
that was on my
Ricky,
list too.
Yep.
Ricky Lee Jones covered The Low Spark of High Heeled Boys, a Traffic tune,
Hmm.
11-minute song. Now, Traffic does it excellent. It's a classic Steve Miller tune, but Ricky Lee brings a jazz, slower vibe to it. She makes it her own in a way that's, again, interesting and different to listen to. Cake, I Will Survive. Is it better than Gloria Gaynor? Maybe, but Gloria Gaynor is a classic disco tune, and everybody knows the words to that song that grew up in the 70s and 80s. And but Cake made it kind of like a alternative punkish version, and that was really good. Going to the movie soundtracks, Ram Jam and the old blues tunes, like Chris was talking about. Ram Jam recorded uh, Black Betty, which is an
Yeah.
old tune from the 30s. It was
Right.
originally done by a guy named James Ironhead Baker, but most people know it as a Lead Belly tune. They made it a rock tune, and they rocked it. It's on the Blow soundtrack, but it's also part of Ram Jam's list of their tunes that they're known for. Eddie Vedder, You've Got to Hide Your Love Away on the I Am Sam soundtrack, covered the Beatles tune.
I don't know that one.
Again, made
Yeah,
his
it's
own
pretty
version.
good.
The I Am Sam soundtrack is all covers and mostly all Beatles tunes, and some of them are really well done. Again, are they better than Lennon and McCartney and Harrison and Starr? No, not necessarily, but more interesting in their own way. The Black Crowes put out an album in 2022 called 1972, which is why I said 2022 weird because I wanted to say 1972. They did all covers of tunes from the 70s, from 72 specifically. And the best version, I think, Chris Robinson did You Wear It Well, Rod Stewart was excellent.
Hmm.
There's another Southern rock band. Again, I was trying to do my list kind of to listen to, so to move from the Black Crowes to another band called Blackberry Smoke. They re-recorded Tumblin' Dice, the Rolling Stones cover from the 70s. They did it in 2021. Most of my stuff is rock influenced on this list. Coolio. So we didn't even go down the path of rap and hip hop and what
That's a great
cover
point.
stuff is about there. But
Yeah.
Coolio recorded Gangster's Paradise, which is really a new version of Pastime Paradise by Stevie Wonder off his Songs in the Key of Life album.
Yeah, I love
Linda
that.
Ronstadt and Bonnie Raitt, they have so many covers, and Chris mentioned Roy Orbison. I would say that both Linda Ronstadt and Bonnie Raitt and Delbert McClinton, there are a lot of artists that do covers, and their covers are iconic. I mean, Bonnie Raitt doing Angel from Montgomery, to me, is more iconic than the John Prine version. So,
Patty, that's a lot of stuff I've never even heard before. So I'm gonna, after this episode, have to log onto your playlist and check it out. So good stuff, Patty. Like it.
thank you.
What'd you have, Rob?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go way back when I was a young pimply teenager in 1983, and I just started listening to rock music. We have a local radio station called WPLR that at the time was giving away a debut album by this band, and I was the ninth caller. So I called on my little Sony transparent phone. Do you remember the one that had like all the innards you could look at and see all the
Oh,
transistors
wow.
inside?
Very
Do you
fancy.
remember that thing?
It was the
I
princess
died.
phone, though, right?
It could have been a princess. It might have been pink. But I could be lying.
Rob's a princess.
Yeah. I was. Yeah, thank you.
I think you stole Chris's line there. Anyway, I called the radio station when they were running this contest, and I, as you always do, called many times. But then it finally connected, and I was the winner. I won the contest. So the album, which came in the mail like a couple weeks later, was Mental Health, and that.
Oh,
Do you remember that?
I
There's
have
a
it.
there's a cover of a song on that album by a 1973 English rock band called Slade. Do you know what it is?
Come on, feel the noise.
Come on, feel the noise.
Yeah, and
So,
Slade was a great band. They don't get enough credit. Yeah.
yeah, so I never heard of Slade. So doing this episode, doing research, I took a look at one and I saw there was a YouTube video all about Slade, and they just had like party rock song after party rock song and had
So
a
many.
ton of hit singles in the UK. And so there's many bands in the US, especially in that like hair metal age, that were covering songs by Slade. I didn't even know that.
Right. Right.
So that's my first song. My second song is a song that I look for every opportunity to add this song to a playlist. It's one of my all-time favorite songs, maybe competing for first place. Originally released in 1959, it's a really odd mix of doo-wop and spacey acoustics that give it a psychedelic feel. Really cool vibe, and peaked on at number 11 on the Billboard chart. And I didn't even know that. I didn't know it was on the Billboard chart, but it was pretty popular back in the day. But it happens to be a cover song, too, that I didn't know about. Originally, it was written for a 1934 film called Dames and performed by a guy named Dick Powell. Never heard of any of this stuff, but the song is I Only Have Eyes for You by the Flamingos, a real
Oh,
doo-wop classic.
that's pretty
Hey,
cool.
hey, Rob,
Yeah.
before you go forward, you mentioned that you won the album, but who was the artist that re-recorded "Come On, Feel the Noise"?
Quiet Riot.
There you go.
Sorry, did I forget to mention that?
That's all
I got
right.
so excited.
Just clarifying. I didn't remember if it was them or Rat or some other, somebody.
Yeah,
So
because
thanks.
they're all the same. All those
They're-
hair bands.
They all got the same, yeah, the
That
same
is
hair
right.
and the same outfits. Yeah,
There was an
spandex.
era.
All right, and my last song is hip hop kind of. So in your theme of those Gangster's Paradise kind of vibe, but this is, as you probably know, many of the early hip hop songs, especially in the early '90s, were based on samples of old jazz records from the '60s. And very recently, a jazz drummer who's kind of on the younger side, who grew up on hip hop in the '90s, created a jazz album that covers those hip hop songs that use those dusty old 1960s jazz samples. So it's kind of like an Inception thing, like creating new jazz music that was based on hip hop, that was originally based on jazz. It's like coming full circle. But the name of the drummer, maybe the band, I don't know, but it's Casa Overall, and the album is called Cream, like the Wu-Tang song. And my favorite track on that album is Big Papa, which covers the notorious B.I.G. song. And what's cool about it is it has a totally different feel. Obviously, it's jazz, so this is proper jazz, but it has like a very bossa nova vibe, and all the instrumentalists, who are super talented, take turns improvising over the melody. So it's kind of like that free jazz where every instrument has a solo, but it's really serious jazz music and incredibly talented performers. And on the album, so I encourage you to go check out the album. But there's also they cover, remember Rebirth of Slick by
Oh
Digable
yeah,
Planets?
great
That's
song.
on the album. And of course they do Cream by Wu-Tang. But another cool one is they do Back That Ass Up by Juvenile, which is just funny to say that that's on a jazz album.
But do you recognize them? Like as soon as you hear it, are you like, oh yeah, that's Big Papa?
Yeah, because they take like the real critical lick that was in the song, like the instrumental sample that provides the main melody, and they take that and they improvise on top of that sample. So you hear the melody or the sample in replayed, and then they just improvise over that in standard kind of jazz fashion. So it's really a neat album, and just came out I think last year.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I'll
You
check
know,
that out.
Rob, you bring up a good point. A lot of jazz artists will take pop songs and rock songs and reinterpret them for jazz.
For
And you
sure.
made me think of the fact that a lot of reggae artists take popular songs and cover them. And for good or for bad, sometimes they're really fun and really funky, and sometimes they're really not. They don't really give a good homage to the original tune. So.
Yeah, especially like the reggae, the dub reggae vibe. They just repurpose old grooves and samples over and over again. So they kind of like all feel like covers. There's like three or four, what do they call them? I can't remember what they call them. The grooves of the record, and they just repeat those samples over and over and with different lyrics over them. But yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think of that as covers, but for sure they are.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Even when I used to go to the reggae club in the 80s, you would hear like weird tunes like the Beatles or Bread or these artists from the 60s and 70s, and they would do like a reggae vibe version of their tune.
Yep, yep. So let me ask you guys this: what's a really crappy cover song? Like there is some really bad ones out there. Do you have any quick examples of really bad ones?
Yeah, I have a couple, and you might not agree with me on this, but I have three that I'm gonna highlight. "Landslide" by Smashing Pumpkins, because
You're hurting
you
my
guys are gonna be
heart.
like, you like it?
You're
I
hurting
know,
my heart.
but there's something about it. I'm like, ah. But really bad, Michael Bolton, "When a Man Loves a Woman." I mean, he just destroyed that song because I mean, it's Michael Bolton. How could he
Right,
not?
right.
Right? And then one you may not be aware of. I have a feeling, Patty, you might be. William Shatner doing "Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds." If you have not seen this, you need to go to YouTube and look it up. It's something you can't unsee, though. I'm warning you. There should be a disclaimer on this podcast that may cause permanent damage. But you should. It's something you have to see at least once. So those are the three.
That whole bleed over of spoken word and
Oh,
music is always controversial. I actually heard an interview with John Malkovich this week that he's been working with classical bands and doing some sort of spoken word singing stuff. And I don't know enough about John Malkovich's voice, but it did evoke thoughts of William Shatner and his interpretive art. I'm not a fan of that either, Chris.
it's just terrible.
Yeah, it's awful.
I don't know how anybody
What
thought it
other
was a
bad
good
ones you
idea.
got, Patty? What other bad ones do you have?
I really just picked one. There are tons of bad ones, but the one that really stuck out to me when we talked about perhaps highlighting a bad one is Judas Priest did a version of Johnny Be Good. And man, also out there on YouTube if you want to see it. It is just if you like Johnny Be Good, it will ruin it for you.
And I can just picture Rob Halford in like chaps.
Look, they have power where they have power, but it was not
Yeah,
that tune.
agreed. Okay. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I have two. The first one is the cover of "Africa" by Weezer. Oh my
Oh,
God! If you
The
heard,
original is not that good.
the original was terrible, and then it got like popular again with the younger generation, and they did a cover of it after begging Weezer to do it for many years. It's terrible. It's. I mean, the original was not good, as you said, and the cover is like a glorified version of the original. Like they didn't change that much, so they didn't give it new personality. They didn't give it a new vibe. It's just kind of the Weezer-esque version of Africa, which is really not good. And the second one that I really think is awful is Luke Combs' version of Tracy Chapman's Fast Car.
oh,
Again,
yeah,
this is another thing where he didn't really change anything about the song. He just recorded it exactly with the same instruments, exactly with
yeah.
the same vocal. Like there's no what was the point except now all the country people are into Tracy Chapman and Fast Car, which is kind of weird, but I guess cool.
Yeah, well, that's happening. We didn't even broach that subject of the country artists who are re-recording rock and pop tunes in the country vibe and bringing it to a whole new audience. I think part of the reason is that none of us are really focused on country music as a genre in terms of our own taste. Rob, I know some of your kids are into it. I know my niece is into it. So it
Yep.
is coming up through the generations, but it is a lot of tunes that we grew up with, reinterpreted or re-recorded verbatim, like you're saying about Luke Combs, and done as covers, you know?
Yep. All right. Here's the important question. When you compose a playlist like this, is there any important lessons, or as corporate speak would say, best practices for getting good cover songs on this list? Like, is what was your philosophy about what makes a good cover and why it should be added to your playlist?
I think for me, again, it goes back to what I said at the beginning. It has to make the song better. It has to improve the song in one way or another. You mentioned some '80s hair metal type stuff. I was thinking about the Kinks and when Van Halen did "You Really Got Me," and like it really made the Kinks did a great job. It was a fantastic song, but Van Halen just lit it up, right? And it just brought extra value to that song to be corporate, right? So
Yep.
that for me, that's what's important: finding those songs and you know seeing the improvement in them. What do you think, Patty?
Yeah, I think there are two things. I mentioned earlier that they need to be interesting, but it's more about the familiarity of the song. So perhaps you hear a new interpretation of it, but you know it from the past. Or perhaps you hear a song that you think is really interesting, and then you come to find out it was a cover. For example, my boyfriend didn't know that Black Betty was a cover of an old blues tune by Ram Jam, and it is. So sometimes you'll hear a tune and it will spark something in you, and then you find out it's a cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was there had to be a story about that cover song which resonated with me personally, and that's why I added it to play. Like it had to be, a story from when I was first into music and won that album, or a song that I didn't know was a cover that I really loved. Like there has to be some personal aspect to it, that resonated with me in order to make the playlist.
That's cool.
Personal story stuff. So yeah, that kind of wraps up the episode. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I think next time we're going to do Stick It to the Man playlist. So we'll have Stick It to the Man songs.
Dan the man.
And if you want to listen to the songs that are on our playlist, because there's a lot more than just the ones that we highlight in the episodes, then we'll have a link to them in the show notes, so you can go and find that link and listen to all those songs yourself, including some of the crappy ones that we added.
I'm not adding my crappy one.
I definitely am.
So that's it for the art of the playlist. Look for you to tune in next time for the Stick It to the Man playlist, and we'll say bye for now.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye now.
Thanks.